What is up, everybody? We are back for another weekly Wednesday live Q&A. We're going to get things rolling here. I do have a new webcam, so let me know if you could hear me. Everything should be rolling in, should be good, but I would appreciate it if you guys would let me know if you could actually hear me. I know everybody can see me because it's up on the screen, but I would like to know if you guys can hear me. So go ahead and give me a nice little thumbs up if you could hear me. We're going to get it going. So this week, we are going to be talking about training. And as per usual, I had everybody ask me questions on Facebook earlier this morning about whatever kind of training tips they wanted. So we're just going to dive right into it. I'm going to go ahead and get things started on Instagram. And just let me know, guys, if you could hear me, because once again, I did get a new webcam for Christmas. Santa was good to me, and he gave me a new webcam. So just let me know if you guys can hear me fine, and we will jump right into it. This is the first time I'm using it, so I just want to make sure that everything is going well. So, Matt, let me know. Matt, I see you're on here, so help a brother out. Can you hear me? And we're going to jump right into the questions, and I'm going to get started. All right. I'm going to go live on Instagram. If we could get this to work, too. It would help if I would turn the camera the right way. So we had a few questions on Instagram come in, and we'll cover those, too. So the first one that we got was from Nicole, and she asked, I noticed in your prep videos that you perform very high reps, example up to 20. She said, do you only do that during prep, or is it always a high reps? What is your typical rep range for compound lifts, such as squats and deadlifts? So, Nicole, I don't always train to the 20 rep ranges all the time. I mean, I do it throughout the course of the year. I train up to 20, 25, depending on the day. But right now, yeah, I mean, I'm going all over the place. So right now I go to a low of like 6 to 8, and that's where I do my squats and my deadlifts. So those technically go to 6 to 8, and I do like my accessory work, up to 20. Today I performed. I did back and buys, and I did sets of 20 on there also. So yeah, I mean, I definitely go to the upper limit of my rep ranges, and it's not just in contest prep. It is all the time. Nicole also asked, her left side is not as developed as her right side. Besides incorporating mostly unilateral training, how can I strengthen my left side to match my right, specifically glutes and lat? Now, Nicole, that's a tough one, because if you're already incorporating unilateral movement, and by unilateral, she means like one hand at a time, one leg at a time, that's tough. So what I would focus on is really just developing your mind-muscle connection. That may be the biggest thing that you're struggling with, is just the mind-muscle part. I know for a fact, like sometimes I struggle with different body parts from my left to right. So I always try to start with that side. So let's say, for instance, myself, my left lat, I have a hard time engaging. So if I'm going to do a unilateral movement, I'm always going to start with the left side and make sure I'm doing it properly. That's just me. I like to do it that way. But so that's one thing that you can incorporate, but really it just might be more time and maybe different exercise selection, because depending on the exercise that you're doing, you may actually feel one exercise more than the other. So don't be afraid to go ahead and switch up your exercises. Karen, I had a laugh when Karen asked me this one. Karen asked, bringing up shoulders, the hardest part for her to do, and she's tried multiple training approaches. So Karen, yeah, I responded to Karen because obviously, if anybody knows my physique, I'm very arm dominant, in my upper body. My shoulders are definitely lacking in chest, and I've definitely tried a lot of things. This season, I have really mastered my rear delt movements. I feel very comfortable with my rear delt movements. So that is the main thing that I've done, and what I've really done to improve them is just slow down the movements and really fight for that mind-muscle connection. So I'm performing a rear delt fly or some kind of base pull, I'm really feeling it in my shoulders. I still have yet to master the dumbbell lateral raise. I just can't really feel it in my lateral delts at all, and that's something that I really, really struggle with. So I've switched to some cable movements. They help a little bit, but it's just one of those body parts that just is very hard for me to hit. Of course, overhead I do just fine, but the lateral has eluded me for a very, very long time. So that's something that I really have to focus on, is learning to feel it first and then worrying about like the scheme. So yes, I have trained like shoulders up to 3 times a week. And then, they do grow. They just happen to grow a little bit slower for me. I have had some progress, but it's just one of those things that's a little bit slower. So Karen, I would say just keep chipping away, and then don't be afraid to change up the exercise selection that you're doing. And then obviously making sure that you're getting enough frequency in. Tina asked, how often do I switch up my muscle groups / splits, or do I switch up upper lower split or chest shoulders tries? Also, if you're trying to grow a certain muscle group, you recommend training multiple times a week. So I'll start with the last question that you asked. Yes, absolutely. I always recommend that you train muscle groups multiple times a week. Absolutely. So I mean, I'm a big fan of training muscle groups, 2 times a week for sure. So I mean, I would recommend starting out with that as a minimum, 1.5 to 2 times. Absolutely. Push it to 2, maybe 3, depending on the muscle group. Now, going on to your first question, how often do I personally switch up my training? It's honest to God not that often. I pretty much have been doing a push-pull leg split for almost like all of 2017. Now, what I do change is I do change my rep ranges, and I do change my exercise selection. So that's big for me. I definitely change those up the most. And really, I change up like my exercises when I start to plateau. So let's say like today I was doing chest-supported T-bar rows. And it's one of those things where if you do go heavy on it, today was my light day, but when I do go heavy, I start to get, my form gets a little bit loose. So eventually I might have to switch to like a chest-supported hammer strength row instead. So I typically stick with the same scheme, push-pull legs, and then, I'll vary what I do first. So let's say on my push day, if I was doing push, the other day I trained shoulders first instead of training chest, and it gave me a much different feeling by the time I rolled in the chest than it would normally have, because, I usually train chest first and shoulders. So it's just kind of switching them around in the day, changing your exercise selection that works best for me. As far as changing the scheme, every now and then, I was battling a lot of injuries this year, unfortunately, so I didn't play around with it too much. If anything, I had to dial back a lot. So it wasn't necessarily the most optimal year for me, but we got the job done. Julie asked, what do you think is the best thing to do between sets to optimize time, mental focus, quality of lifts, and strength gains? She said, sit, stand, pace, drink water, check phone, catch up with your friends, etc. Serious question. So that is a really good one, Julie, and I've done all of the above. So typically, actually what I've been doing more recently, just because I feel like there for a while, I was like really focused on selecting my music and trying to find the right song. So actually, since I work at the gym, I just control the radio and I put it on a radio station that I like. And that kind of just helps me block out trying to select any kind of music. So for the past, maybe month, I haven't really been listening to too much music as I've been training. And that just allows me to kind of throw the music out the window and just focus on my set. Now, I am guilty of looking at my phone. I feel like that does really distract me. So I really try not to look at my phone during a training session. Now, of course, those of you who follow me on Facebook know that, I typically make a post roughly about 11 o'clock every day. I train at noon, so people are commenting on that post, and I typically look at it. So I know I'm guilty of that, checking my phone, checking the responses. But ideally, I would not like to look at my phone. So what I've done, basically, if I'm not listening to music and I'm not checking my phone, I just typically walk back and forth, hit a few flexes, just make sure I'm really feeling a muscle group, try to work on my form, try to find that mind-muscle connection even in between sets. I do that quite a lot. Obviously, I do talk to the guys that are in the gym. There's a few people, who are always training at the same time. So we go back and forth a little bit. But, a good example today, and I saw that he had tuned in. It at least on Instagram here, it was one of the powerlifters at the gym, Genesis. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, you probably know who he is because you see me tagging him all the time, or at least he tags me in his videos. Today he deadlifted 600 pounds, and basically in between his sets, which was an all-time PR, he was just walking back and forth, walking back and forth. He didn't even have his headphones on. He was just very, very focused, and that's what I've been trying to do. Not because I've just started contest prep. It's because I know it's time, to really just get serious, and I'm not hurt anymore, more or less, and I really just need to put all my focus into the gym and not worry about any extracurricular things. So I've been pacing back and forth in the gym recently. I feel like my workouts have improved. I've tried to put the phone down less. I've cut the music out a little bit and just focus on the task at hand. All right. Holly said, what is the typical recovery time for each body part? I usually don't feel sore until 1.5 to 2 days after the training. And if I'm working hamstrings, they're sore for days after. How do you speed up recovery? So there's a couple parts to that question. Holly said that, let's go with the first one. How long does it typically take time to recover? So depending on if you're in a caloric surplus, depending on if you're a deficit, will really affect that for sure. Let's say you're in a caloric deficit, it might take you longer to recover. If you're in a caloric surplus, it might take you less time to recover. Less time to recover. I got that right. Okay. And then as far as the body part goes, so she said her hamstrings are beat up for days at a time. And I could feel that, if you really go hard on a particular body part, let's say your mind-muscle connection is really good, it might be very, very sore. Now, how to speed up recovery? Obviously, make sure you're getting enough sleep, drinking enough water. I prefer static stretching afterwards. I feel like that helps, just loosen up the muscles a little bit. I do a lot of foam rolling. I do foam rolling every single day. I just got one of these bad boys for Christmas, and I didn't even mean to have this here, but I roll out, everything I can in my body like once a day, just because it, really helps me loosen up my muscles, and I feel like that helps me recover. So, this is just, it's called like a muscle stick. I use that, and then more recently, if I could get up here for a second. All right, I got an electric stim machine, which is electric impulses, and I put this on different parts of my body too. So today, my neck was bothering me a little bit. My traps, I struggle with a lot of tightness in my upper back in general. So I've been using that to help me just recover a little bit. So I try to use everything. I have my wife give me a massage. Whether she wants to or not, I can't say. She's not here right now, but I'll say that. So she rubs me down, maybe once or twice a week just to help me with recovery. Obviously, if we're getting enough protein in, hopefully we're recovering quickly. So those are the main things to help us recover. All right. Lydia asked, recommendation on incorporating cardio and also phasing it out after incorporating it for a period of time. So I guess what Lydia is getting at is like how fast you should incorporate cardio. I guess I'll interpret her question like that. So if I don't like to add a ton of cardio in at once, I actually like to let the diet do a lot of the work. So I'll add 10, 15 minutes of cardio right off the bat, and then I'll just, up it a few minutes a week if we're in a contest prep. Now, if you're looking to lose, let's say 5-10 pounds, you could be a little bit more aggressive with the cardio. As far as weaning it off, I go much more aggressive, especially if you're coming out of a deficit and you're going into a surplus. Depending on the person, I like to take the cardio away very quickly. I myself just absolutely hate cardio, so I'm one of those people that want to pull cardio as fast as possible. So that'll be one of the first things to go for me. Someone that likes to do a little bit of cardio, you can keep it in there and focus on bringing food up. As far as implementing cardio and what Lydia might be getting at with the different types, that's going to be depending on the person too. Let's say, somebody just can handle a lot of stress on their body and they could recover quickly. You might want to give them a little bit more HIIT instead of LISS, because LISS just really hinders them. It just beats them up because of the length of the session. If they have, more type 2 muscle fibers, if I'm getting that right, they could go longer. If you have fast twitch, which is, I believe is the number one type fibers, maybe somebody will have a little bit better option with going with HIIT. Now, I do sprinkle in both just for the sake of doing it, just because I don't like to just give somebody all miss, because I feel like miss is really has to do with a lot of muscle wasting, and I don't want people just wasting away like a marathon runner. So I try to stay away from too much miss. I like to incorporate a little bit of HIIT, and then once again, as soon as we're done losing the weight, just go ahead and start chopping it off the block. I mean, I've been known to cut cardio in a whole third, bringing somebody out of a deficit, really, and then just taking big chunks out of the way, because I'm just not a fan of cardio. All right, Leah asked, how often should you have a rest day? Also, how do I build more strength in my chest? It continues to be my weakest body part. Cry face. So, Leah, how often you should take a rest day? And that's going to be, again, depending on the individual. Now, I do like to see somebody take at least one rest day every 7 days. Ideally, one rest day every 4 to 5 days. But if you're feeling good, I always tell my clients, you could push it 6 days, even 7 maybe, but really I would like to see somebody take a rest day, just because of the amount of stress that you're putting on your body. And I think a lot of people, and I saw kind of a funny post today about this very topic after I had put this up, my post, and it was in regards to taking off days. And when we started, everybody was in the mindset that you have to go hard 7 days a week, 24/7. And basically what the picture of the post alluded to was that those people who are going hard every single day are the ones that are going to be injured, that are ones that are going to have to take breaks, that are not going to be able to do it for a long time. I've learned over the years that I need to take rest breaks. I need to have at least 1 or 2 days off per week if I want to do this for a long time. And there for a while, I only trained 5 days a week. And it was working well for me. I recently switched to a 6-day program. I'm still feeling fine, but there's no way I'm going to switch to a 7-day-a-week training program. I know my body needs an extra rest day, so there's absolutely no way that I'm going to take away my one and only rest day. Now, I have gone for like 9 days in a row just because of like the holidays when the gym was closed and I couldn't get there. So I could see, maybe extending it every now and then. But ideally, I would really like to see, a rest day on, every 7th day. And basically every 4th to 7th day, I would like to see a rest day depending on the individual, just because of the amount of stress that, especially if you're bodybuilding, if you're going in and just doing cardio, like it's really no big deal. You don't need to necessarily take a rest day from cardio. But if you're weight training and you're hitting body parts twice a week, rest day, Genesis said, what muscle group is that and how do I train it? Genesis was the power lifter I was talking about earlier, and he's on Instagram trolling me right now, which is very typical. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely take a rest day just to help you recover, give yourself a nice little mental break. So really, it's going to be depending on week to week how you're feeling, but more often than not, every 4 to 7 days. Leah asked how to bring up the strength in her chest. Once again, that's just going to be varying the rep ranges, making sure we are hitting all the angles. So let's say, we're going all the way down to, let's say, like 4 to 6, and then bringing that up to 8 to 10, and then 12 to 15, and then 15 to 20 or 25 and up. So if you're really hitting all the rep ranges and you're adding progressively over time, your chest will grow. The body part that is lacking will grow. It just needs to be more time in the gym is my guess. All right, Tommy asked, training around a hurt lower back. I assume that he means that to be a question. That was more of a statement, but I get him. So as many of you know, I've hurt my lower back at the end of September. I had to take some time off just from training in general. I just really had to take it easy there for like a good 2 to 3 weeks. I did get back into the swing of things. I started doing a lot of chest supported stuff, really looking at my programming to make sure that I wasn't taxing my core and my lower back. And then I strategically incorporate more core movements into my direct core movements. So I'm doing like planks, I'm doing hyperextensions strategically in my plan just so I could help strengthen my lower back. Because I feel like a lot of people, when they do get hurt, they get the notion that they just shouldn't train that body part. And what I've done was, yes, I babied it for a while, but now I'm attacking it. So any back day, I'm doing hyperextensions right off the bat, and I'm following that with rack pulls. And I've been doing that for a while, and I feel like, yeah, it does fatigue my back, but it's working it in a way, and I'm not doing a stupid amount of weight. I'm focusing on the actual contraction and my core stability. So if you have a hurt lower back or for a shoulder, just lessen the weight and make sure you're doing the movement right. That's all I could really say as far as, working around a hurt body part. Yeah, we do have to baby it to a certain extent, but if you're a bodybuilder, if you're a physique competitor, and you need to grow that part, you have to eventually work it. Tommy said, do deadlifts add thickness to your hips, ruining your shape? No, absolutely not. Petros asks, he's always asking good questions. What are my thoughts on double workout sessions in a day, and what are the benefits of it? So I've known a couple guys who have done multiple training sessions throughout the course of the day. I've never done them myself. The time that I have in the gym, I really don't want to have to go twice. I feel like my energy is good enough where I could just hit one session and be done with it. But basically what he's getting at is, let's say you're training the legs, and you're going to squat and stiff leg dead in the morning, and that's it. So you're going to do like your two big movements right in the morning, and maybe hip thrust or something, and then be done. And then in the evening, you go and do something else. Or you're training completely different body parts. So let's say like on one day, depending on your program is, if you're doing like chest and back, some people do chest and back on the same day. Maybe on your morning lift, you're training chest, and you're going to bench press only, bench press heavy. And then in the afternoon, you're going to go in and you're going to hit your back accessory work. And then the next time you train chest and back, you're just going to deadlift heavy in the morning, and then you're going to do your chest accessory work, and vice versa. So what are the benefits of it? You might be able to go a little bit harder at each individual session. Obviously, you're going to be burning a lot of calories just because you're working out twice in the day. I really don't see any true advantage to that, though, because I feel like, you have to get your meal timing correct, ideally. And I've talked about this before in a podcast. You're going to have to, if you're in a deficit, it's going to be very hard for you to do, because you have to replenish your glycogen stores from the time that your first workout ends to your second workout. And those aren't necessarily the right carbs that you want to be pushing in, because if you want to restore your glycogen quickly, you're going to have to be eating a little bit more high glycemic carbs. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but when it gets down to the nitty-gritty, you don't just want to be eating simple sugars for the purpose of doing two-a-days. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. If you're in an off-season and you're eating a ton and your recovery is through the roof, then yes, absolutely, you could go with two-a-days. I've personally never done them. I haven't had my clients do it. I feel like if you could get in the gym, and I really try to limit my training and my clients' training for that matter, I try to limit it to an hour and a half to 2 hours maximum. Now, if you can get your morning workout done in an hour and you could get your afternoon workout done in an hour, I could see it maybe. But the thing is not a lot of people have the time to do that. Depending on our job, not everybody works in the gym, not everybody works from home, not everybody lives close to their gym. So I would say for the most part, I would just recommend one training session a day, and don't worry about trying to get in for two-a-days. All right. Let's see here. Ben asked, cardio before lifting or versus after weightlifting? So Ben, that's going to be on the individual again. Now, if you're doing like a HIIT session before you're training legs, that might hinder your leg training session. So be mindful of that. Now, I typically do my cardio afterwards, or just completely removed from the situation. So let's say this is the scenario where I might do like a two-a-day. And by a two-a-day, I mean like I might, lift weights midday, and then I might do like cardio at home or in the evening when it's, when it's the summertime. I typically ride my bike outside, so that might be like my cardio. I might do my missed cardio on my bike. That is going to be well removed from the training session, so it doesn't affect me. Now, if I were to do cardio in the morning, which I typically don't, You know, I could see doing it removed once again, just making sure you're recovered for your training session. I try to strategically place my trainings, my cardio sessions around the body parts that I'm training. So ideally, I wouldn't want to put a cardio session on a leg day, especially before. I could do it after, but I feel like then I can't just give 100% to my cardio session. So I really try not to have it on a leg day. That's just me. Ben also asked, in addition to that, what is the best time to train? For example, today when I went after breakfast, my strength was down from a normal night workout. So yeah, Ben, that doesn't surprise me, especially when you're changing the time of day that you're training at. So let's say, you know, you usually train at night, like Ben said, and next thing you know, you go at 5 o'clock in the morning. Once your body is not used to that, you're going to feel like shit. You really don't know what to do. Like your body's still in sleep mode and you're trying to make it work out, you know, at a higher level. So I would say just try to stick with one time a day if you can to help with your lifting. I lift at basically noon every single day, minus Saturday. I lift around 10. So your meal timing is going to affect that. The amount of sleep is going to affect that. So there's not necessarily the best time of day to train. I know some people that train at 5 a.m. I know some people that train at noon, like I said. I know some people that train at 5 p.m. I know some people that train at night. So it's really, first of all, what best meets your schedule, and then where you could perform optimally. And the number one is what best meets your schedule. I have some people that only have basically an hour to work on their lunch break. They have kids. They have an hour break from their job. Really, it's like, you know, 45, 50 minutes, depending on where they work. And they need to get in, get out, and go home and take care of their kids. So their workout time has to be noon, and they have to work around that. Now, if you're someone like myself that has a little bit more flexibility but still has a regimented day, you have to pick the time that works best for you. Noon happens to work best for me just because I'm done with my morning emails. You know, nothing else is really happening in the afternoon. I don't have client calls. Midday, it's typically in the evening when people are home. So that's when I work out. But everybody's very different. You know, my wife sometimes has to go in the early morning around 9 o'clock. Sometimes, you know, my friends have to train much later in the day or very early. So really it has to depend on your work schedule and then go from there. Don't plan your day around what time you're going to the gym. Fit what time you're going to the gym around your day, if that makes sense. All right, guys. I think that might have been all of them. I do want to review my Instagram feed here and see. Yeah, that covered all of them. So this was a weekly Wednesday. I think it was episode 10. Don't quote me on that. They'll be on YouTube later today, if not tomorrow. Hopefully my new webcam served us well. I hope that it caught the audio. Otherwise, everybody was watching absolutely nothing. Just me rambling on. So I do appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and end this live video on Instagram, and if I can, and then I will go ahead and end this Facebook video. Once again, guys, I do really appreciate you tuning in every single week. Great questions as always. Did I miss? Oh, some questions here. I don't know why I missed the comments. Let's see if I can review them really quick. On Facebook, you guys asked a few, or there was at least a few comments. Matt asked, let's see. Agreed, I used to have an awful back problems. Yep. So Matt started training that. But yeah, that is it. We are wrapping it up. Have a great night, guys. Thanks for tuning in as always. Keep crushing it. Until next week, see you then.